And we are live.
Hey everyone, it's can they hear us? Because that's
yes, they can hear us
all the time. Okay. Hey everyone, it's Ultra Podcast Z. It's episode 163. It's Fantasy February, and it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
Oh, it is. I didn't
Yep.
realize that.
Yeah.
It's
And it's a Tuesday.
It's funny. Yeah, I've been overthinking it today all day. I'm like, what? Like, I mean, all day, all week. Last week when I really realized it. I mean, I knew about it for a while, but last week when I realized that it's coming up, I'm like, I need to think of a good topic. And then TLDR, I just overthought it enough that I never thought of one. So we're doing the fantasy thing we've been talking about for a while.
You mean that I've been pushing you to do for a while?
Well, I think I've mentioned it too, haven't I? It was a joint thought, or maybe I just stole the idea from you and it became mine in my
Yeah,
own
that's how your thoughts
He
generally work, Manuel.
inceptioned himself.
Yeah, which is very likely. I'm
Inception.
not gonna lie. But yeah, I'm Manuel. I'm Manuel, the Stiller of Thoughts. And you can interpret that both ways. I'm the stiller of both thoughts. Both kinds of thoughts.
I didn't think about it like that. My
My
mind is blown.
I was in college like by the time when thought was really blowing up, like when people were really using it like years ago. Well, not years ago, but recentish years ago.
It was pretty years ago.
And I was in this
can
science.
say that.
I was in this history class actually, and there was this professor who was talking about how his son had used the word thought for the first time. He's like, he was just telling us random shit. He's like, you guys know the word thought? Isn't that a weird word? My son used it the other day, and I'm like, oh, that's a nice way to refer to a woman. It's like she's a thought, like as if it's a very abstract concept. And then like, yes, and then eventually I think he used it to his son. And he's all like, oh, you know what that means, right? It's like, yeah, thought. He's like, no, it means that hole over there. Which, by the way, I didn't know that's what that meant until the professor had mentioned it. I just thought that it was a word. But yeah. Anyways.
Oh God. This kind of reminds me of. Oh, do you?
No,
yeah, you start.
Introduce yourself.
Start your intro, and then you can go back.
What's up, yo? My name is Warren, aka Frederick Badman, aka that dude, but not that dude, aka Toonie names McGee. And I am surprisingly here today. Is a surprise day for me. Manuel asked me to be here today. Usually I am on the gaming our gaming stream, which is tomorrow, and then Drink Talk Roll, which is us playing D&D, which is this Friday, and then DTL, which is the next Saturday after this. So yeah, what's up, guys?
What's up?
Nice to be on an extra stream.
Yeah, I asked a lot of people, and it's funny because a lot of people said half yes, but you were the only one who said yes. So I was like, fine, we'll just go with you. And I never got back to those other people, so I don't know if they're going to show up randomly.
That's because if I was like, if I couldn't make it, then I would say no, like a normal. Not saying no one. I'm not saying that the other people. Not talking about not saying anything about anybody else, but
This is a crossover episode. But yeah, thought's a funny word. We're all thoughts in our own ways.
I mean, thought is supposed to be, it's like a long. It's like a long. It's like the long version of saying literally hoe.
Yeah, but it's also it's also the kind of term that you would like lovely. Oh, what the hell is that bug?
I know Manuel found the grasshopper. It came back. Its spirit.
Oh my! Sorry.
It came back.
The other day on this is a real story, by the way. I don't remember. I think it was a DTL or might have been I think it might have been Talk Roll. Actually, I told this story about like this bug I had picked up that I thought was dead. This is the longest time ago in this disgusting apartment I used to live in. And I thought it was I thought it was dust, and I thought it was a Rhesus wrapper. That's what it was. And I picked it up. It turned out to be a bug. Not only was it a bug, but it was alive. And I told that story, and no joke, the next day, pretty much the exact same thing happened to me in my current place, which I have never seen a bug before. So now I'm like deathly afraid there's bugs in here. By the way, in case you're curious, a bug was not crawling on me. I have a bag on the floor, like a shopping bag, and it brushed against my like bare foot because I'm not like wearing socks or anything, and it scared the hell out of me. Anyway,
and you're like, ooh, who's touching my feet?
Who's touching my toes? It's a fucking grasshopper. Like, hey. Oh man. Anyway, yeah, we're talking fantasy
Anyway,
today. But let's do the what are you doing? What have you been doing lately, Warren? What have you been watching, playing, reading, doing anything?
to be honest, we just talk. We talk. Wait, I guess in general,
Yeah, in
do you
general,
Yeah.
just
just
like
just as an opener.
um well, this is an old. This is old, but it's a old newie and a newie oldie. Um, I have I am now slowly closing my progression in DFO. Like
Oh,
I'm actually quite capped because I already reached as end game as I can. So I'm pretty much don't really touch the game anymore. So I've been focusing a lot of that energy into one, still working out and running, and then also working on D&D stuff because now that we are doing my campaign for Drink Talk Roll, I've been trying to figure out what things I could do to make it a little bit more fun for myself. Like I love watching you guys
hmm,
play, but it kind of I like there's just some aspects of which I'll probably talk to you guys about it
okay.
after the fact. And then I'm also doing another campaign my own campaign because the one that we're doing right now is Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which is like a module, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to do my own one because I wanted to kind of I don't know. I as much as I like to see the ideas of like the actual like the official stuff, there's some things in there where I'm just like, man, this is like a lot. This seems like a lot of bullshit. Like kind of not bullshit, but just like a lot of like filler things. And I was like, I want to go back to just kind of doing my own thing, like coming up with my own story. And the reason why I'm also doing that, the other ones, because I wanted to actually have you guys play that one, test it with you guys, and also introduce my little brother and his friends to D&D. So it's a kind of like it's a little bit more dynamic nowadays,
I
and
keep
that's really about
forgetting
it.
that I keep forgetting the thing we're playing on Doom Shock Roll. I keep forgetting that that's mostly
That's
a pre-made module. I keep forgetting that.
Yes, it's not a me thing. Like if you guys see me, like usually a lot of the things that they put in there, like I'm just going along with it just to see how it is because I've never played using somebody else's like a guide. Like as if everything was just off of the top of the dome and just my ideas. So
Well,
yeah.
it's funny because like I have actually most my what am I doing things kind of actually tied into this fun fact. But before I get to that, I want to mention like I used to when I did DM, almost everything I did was pre-built stuff. But
Mm.
whenever I would go to like my Barnes and Noble or my B Dalton or what actually I never went to Barnes and Noble that young, but like a B Dalton or a Borders, because that's where I would get like they would sell these in bookstores. I
Oh,
would
I
go
thought it
there
was
and I
the
would
Stone Tablet Factory.
God damn it.
Lil,
And I would buy whatever modules. They would usually be older, like as if like this fucking random B Dalton in the mall had like bought these in like 1990 and never sold them.
what
And
the fuck? Okay, not gonna lie, what the fuck is a bead Dalton?
Yeah.
oh, see that's how old I am, by the way. B Dalton was kind of like the mall version of like a Borders or Barnes and Noble. Actually, Barnes and Noble
Oh, okay.
eventually bought them. But it was a tiny
Mm-mm.
bookstore in a mall. It was like kind of like the way you see at an airport. Like, it would be like
Oh,
that
okay, okay,
big. It was
yeah,
like this,
okay.
but it used to be its own brand. Like back then, it was its own brand. But but I went in there and I would go like look at the modules. A lot of them would be pre-made, but they'd be old. And in the old ones, they were so open-ended. Like I've seen some new ones, and like especially for like third edition, they have like these walls of text you're supposed to read kind of thing. None of that was there. Like it would just be like,
Mm-mm.
oh, here's a map. Here's an NPC. You can make up the backstory. We're not giving it to you. Oh, you want to fight a monster? Roll for it. You roll a
Ah,
you roll a percentile die. Oh, it's a troll. Oh, but it's a bugbear. That kind of thing. They were a lot more open ended back then. It's kind of interesting. And it also made me feel like, why did I buy this thing? Because it was like there wasn't as much like pre-made stuff as I thought in it.
Yeah, the module
Anyway,
just says, make it up yourself, idiot.
yeah,
yeah, I
pretty
mean,
much
like at
really
the
said
end,
that.
it is really like that too. Like, to
It
be
literally would
honest.
do that. It would have some. It would have a few characters. It would basically have some monsters that could come up, some characters that could come up, and then maps. And then pretty much you were meant to fill everything else out. And like I've
Mhm.
watched, I've been watching a lot of D&D YouTubers. Which, by the way, this is my what am I been watching, and And it's funny because a lot of them are nostalgic for those kind of modules, and I'm like, I'm kind of not, to be honest, even though those were the ones I used. But I'm kind of not. Like at that point, I'll just make it up myself. But it did remind me that I used to steal names from them all the time. But that's for another day. But I watched this video recently, and it was I can't remember the guy's name. I'll find it. I'll link it below, and if you're watching on YouTube. But there's this video, this one dude who I guess plays D&D forever. And he's like me. He plays D&D, but he always wants to play other systems. So he's been collecting all these other books from like other RPGs, and he reads them, but he never gets a chance to run them. So in this video, he ran like 10 or so other RPGs that were in D&D with his with his like buddies, and like reviewed them. And TLDR, the funny thing is they all sucked. And
Well,
I can't help but wonder if that will be me one day actually trying them. And it made me really think. I'm like, do people play the other RPGs they buy that aren't Dungeons and Dragons? Or let me expand that a bit more. That are in D&D, that are in Pathfinder, that aren't insert
What?
other
World of
equally
Darkness,
big RPG. Yes.
Chronicles of
World of
Darkness.
Darkness. Yeah. Besides those, do people play the other ones? Like, I feel like
how
no
about that
one
Wuxia? Was it what was the
Yeah.
one that you
Yeah,
want?
I
The
want the
Wuxia one?
Wuxia.
I want.
Yeah,
I want to try that
okay.
one.
Maybe we segue into this as our first topic,
But
like fantasy RPGs.
Yeah. Let's do it. Fantasy RPGs, because I have a lot of thoughts about these things. It's like,
I've actually seen this come up a lot recently on like tabletop RPG Twitter people that I follow, just because like it's a cycle of people talking about D&D stuff, like D&D is too complicated or whatever, D&D is too bland, that kind of stuff, and like promoting other RPGs or like the play something else crowd. And yeah, there are definitely a lot of systems I want to check out. Like one I want to is the Cipher system from Monty Cook Games. It still uses a D20, but instead everything is ranked on a scale of like 1 to 10 in difficulty, and you have to roll 3 times the difficulty or higher on the die. And if you're paying attention, you realize you can't get anything higher than a 7 or 6 because a 7 would be 21. But all of your like power ups will decrease it by 1 level, like in certain skills. So you might be able to say repair something and ease it down 2. So instead of being a 7, it's a 5. Instead of a 2, it's a 0 kind of thing. You don't even have to roll.
like, I'll roll anyway.
no, but that's the issue. Like, I feel like when RPGs get too simple, they kind of like are they fun? Because one of the RPGs this dude mentioned, and it's funny because this is a system, and he didn't know this because I don't think he. As far as I know, he didn't mention it, so maybe he does know this. But I don't think he realizes that the system he mentioned for Magic describes kind of what the Wuxia system does. By the way, this is the Wuxia RPG I want to play, which I'm sure my face won't show, but it's called the Art of Wuxia. And I really want to play this. I know, for one to cooperate, I really want to play this. But
I mean, I could try to. I mean, I could read it somewhere.
Yeah,
I'll put the PDF up. To be fair, to be totally fair, I do think you can legally download it for free. I do think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Manuel, if you can get it on a night that I'm free, sign me up to try any new RPG.
But it's funny because like this dude was running this magic thing, and it was basically this magic system this one RPG has. I forget what the RPG was, but it's in the video that I'll link, and maybe I'll put it on screen when I'm editing this. But the RPG system had like a magic system that was not tiered the way D&D is by level or by magic, how many spells you do a day, but basically like by how well you roll, like or how high you're trying to make it. Like, I want a huge fireball, so your difficulty is like 19 your hit dice or whatever, then you roll to that, and if you manage to get a 19 or 20, you did it, more or less. Like, I'm telling this terribly, but more or less that's the idea. And I'm just like, that sounds cool, but that also sounds like almost not fun. And that's what the guy said too. The guy's like, oh, this is weird because like it was just really hard to like for the DM to, I guess he was DMing, was too hard to come up for all these random hit numbers. If like I want my fireball to be like, my firebolt to be really thin and hit that guy only, and to stop in him and not go through the other. And it's all like, what? Roll a 13. I don't know, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things.
Like, that got really specific. Like, that got way too specific. Oh, my bad, JD. What were you saying?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I kind of like in theory about the Cypher system is that since it's just okay, where does this rate on a 1 to 10 or a 0 to 10 scale? You can say, okay, well that's a 7 or something like that, and now they have to roll 21 or like find some way to ease that down to a manageable number.
And this is a really stupid reason to not want to play another system. But one of the big reasons I've always been a little about playing is that they use less dice, and I know that most of them, I guess anything that's not D&D always wants to get rid of dice, which makes sense. But like I'm like I have all these dice, I want to use them. That's a stupid reason, I know. But like the Wuxia system, for example, I think only uses D10s. Shadowrun, which I've been wanting to get into again because the 5th edition came out a couple years ago. It came out when I was really thinking about playing RPGs again. Huh?
Oh, for some reason I thought they're on 6th, but I might be thinking of a different game.
Shadowrun uses only D6s, which is weird. Like because most of them use only D10s, and I think even that one game you wanted us, or you were talking about on that one DTL, the space one, that uses D10s also.
Mothership or Alien?
I think it was was it Mother?
It was Mother. It is Mother. Mothership.
Was it Mothership? Or was it?
I believe so.
And it's funny because
I think it is Mothership.
It's funny because whenever I download that one, it always corrupts on my Kindle. It has to be a Kindle thing because I can just view it on my computer, but it always corrupts on my Kindle, and I can't read it on my Kindle. It's very annoying. That game's free, by the way. They do have a paid version now, but it's not a paid version. You can just pay to get like a special edition, but the game is free.
Like physical edition?
Yeah.
And okay.
I think just like that Wuxia one, by the way. The Wuxia one I think is free as well, but the book was like $20.
Yeah, a lot of them do have like the free quick start guides now.
Like the only thing that I don't like about like having having a universal die like mechanic is cool because it keeps it simple. But then when it comes to like actually like when you're actually doing things like as an actual character, it doesn't. It's just like, what, man? I'm a barbarian, I'm fucking strong as fuck, but I still gotta roll I was like, man, I still roll decent. How about this guy? Why is he gonna roll the same die? Like, why isn't my dice big? Like, roll more. Like, nah, man. Like, I guess you can always like roll more or like more d6s than somebody else to actually like counterbalance it.
Yeah,
it's funny because
it just.
JD gets mad at me whenever I mention. JD gets mad at me whenever I say, "Why does D12 exist? Just roll 2 D6s." And he's all like,
"Because the average of number roll is different. It's 6.5 for D12, while it tends towards 7 for 2D6."
Manuel's only doing that to make people mad.
Yeah.
And you can never roll a 1, obviously, if you have 2 D6s. By the way, that's the other thing. You can never roll a 1. It'll always be 2.
Yeah. So a D12 is more swingy, while 2D6 are kind of more balanced towards the middle.
Yes.
It's funny because D12 is like the most underutilized die in any RPG, pretty much period. Even in D&D, it's just hilarious. Like, why do you exist?
For barbarians and their battle axes.
Yeah, pretty much it's literally just it's the barbarian die. Yeah. If no one's a barbarian, you probably will never ever use it.
Because you got to feel strong, okay? She's like, I use D12s. Yeah. Everyone's actually, like on a D10 or D8. What's up?
But going back to what Warren was saying about how like you want to differentiate the like different specialties or classes in your system, and like so the barbarian can like be the one to go to on all those strength things. I think Pathfinder 2nd edition has done something like that where there are levels to like mastery of stat or of skills. So like your barbarian might be super strong in like athletics, like where he has like a +10 or something just from his mastery of it. While the wizard obviously doesn't get access to that, and so even if he has 20 strength, he still only has like a +7.
Oh, okay. So he has like no proficiency, as opposed to the barbarian
who has all of the proficiency and can do these specifically legendary things.
He's like, get out of here, you weightlifting nerd. I lift.
Yeah.
Do you lift, bro?
Do you even lift, bro?
And then the wizard just says, telekinesis, and lifts something heavier. No, there's a funny story from the campaign I ran. They were at like the fantasy equivalent of the Highland Games, run by one of the Goliath tribes. or sorry, it was a big meeting of the Goliath tribes, and our wizard managed to win the like log or the tree trunk throwing contest because he just launched it with telekinesis. Like, well, there's nowhere in the rules that says he can't do that, and they can't prove he's not throwing it.
Everyone just beats him up. That's how that gets settled.
They're like, this is a collective. You're not disqualified, but we are gonna beat you down.
You can win the prize, but like this will be like 10 raging barbarians in a minute or something. Really, the Goliath actually. But
Yeah.
Goliath.
But yes, they were a very warrior focused set of tribes that were meeting. Luckily for him, it's probably not a good idea to cause violence at a large meeting of all the tribes that's supposed to be for peacemaking.
Was it Ender's Game? I don't remember if it was Ender's Game or thinking about another side. This is mildly off topic. I really need to get this off my head. Where like because that's the one where they were going. Wait, what sci-fi series was it? Where they were going to war with some alien, and they beat them. But even though they didn't like annihilate them, the aliens had been playing this as a game for so long. They're like, yeah, we're gonna give up because this has been our society. Was that Ender's Game?
I haven't read Ender's Game.
Oh, you never read Ender's Game?
All I know is Ender's Game is that.
Apparently, Orson Scott Card's an asshole.
Yeah. There wasn't it. What happened? Who? Is that the person?
He's a homophobe.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So don't read it.
All I know is
pirate it if you want. I don't know.
All I know is the with Ender's Game, they're like, yeah, man, this is a game. You have to kill all these. It's a simulation. You're like, yeah, and then after he won, everyone's like, yeah, and he's like, the fuck, why y'all? Yeah. What the hell? And then they're like, you really killed him. Like, no.
and remember that is the prologue to the series that just got too long that he had to write a book, and then it was still too long, so he had to write another book. And then I think he finally got to, was it Speaker of the Dead or Xenocide? I can't remember which one's the one he actually wanted to write.
Oh yeah, I think it was Xeno. But yeah, Speaker of the Dead is a weird one because like that was just weird. But
yeah, okay. Sorry.
Spoiler for Ender's Game, by the way, just spoil it. It's like when he wins the war, it's actually very anticlimactic because I'm not sure how they did it in the movie. There is a movie, but in the book, literally when he wins the last simulation, everyone just kind of like and just goes like that, basically. Like they just like sigh like relief. But I remember thinking like, oh, and then when they revealed that it was real, I'm like, that was like you didn't like pop a champagne bottle or something.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Let's save this for when we talk like sci-fi novels or something.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. But if I can keep talking about RPGs for at least one more like minute.
Sure.
Yeah. No. Another like generic system. Like I mean, as in like there are a bunch of sub game or games that use this kind of like back end. Is Powered by the Apocalypse from Apocalypse World, which is obviously a sci-fi one, but it uses for games like Monster of the Week, which is kind of like, hey, do you want to play a game that's episodic, kind of like a Monster of the Week show, like Buffy, The X-Files, Supernatural?
Someone described that to me as Stranger Things, but I'm like, I think you're thinking about Kids on Bikes,
which
is another RPG, by the way.
Yeah.
but yeah, that's more like Buffy. Anyways, go on.
Yeah. And I like that one just because I could come up with like stealing plots from some of the urban fantasy I've read and then just going through it. And the system is very simple. It's just, hey, roll 2d6, add your modifier in this thing, and that determines your level of like success or failure. And it's like, okay, you have a regular level of success. You have a success, but there's some kind of like drawback, and then there's generally some kind of big drawback, or you just completely whiffed it kind of thing that I like. And I've been trying to kind of adapt that for another, like my own homebrew system for a fantasy thing that I've been working on forever now.
Wait, is it like totally your own system, or are you adapting?
It's a modified version of Powered by the Apocalypse. Basically, it uses 3d6 as the standard die roll, and then it has like the D&D advantage disadvantage system, which either adds a die or subtracts a die, respectively.
Nice.
Respectively, yeah.
I've always wanted to play. I'm sure that there's tons of side RPGs like this. I think Spelljammer was one. That's an old school campaign setting. I'm sure nobody remembers.
No, people remember. Don't worry.
Is it Spelljammer?
Spelljammer. It's D&D in space.
Yeah, I've always wanted to run one of those campaigns like the way the old PC games used to be, where they would be like if it was a medieval setting, it'd be like, oh, you're in the medieval setting, but it's actually still like alien technology. It turns out that we're actually way in the future. We're not, maybe not in the future. Who knows what time period you are relative. But it's like there's also spaceships and lasers. Like the biggest weapon is a laser as opposed to a sword.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think D&D's April Fool's joke for last year was announcing Plane Jammer, a mix between Planescape and Spelljammer, just because so many people were like dying and speculating on all those settings when they were getting released. And I'm hoping for Spelljammer sometime in the near future, based on I think something Jeremy Crawford had talked about, like
I'm really
having
upset with myself. I had the Spelljammer, the campaign setting book. I think it was for second edition though, for the record. But I had the campaign setting book, and it was really ratty. Like I think I bought it like at a thrift store, and then I did.
Sure you didn't steal it from the library?
I mean, I could have, to be honest. It was just as ratty as that AD&D book I have that's like from the library, but it's really fucked up. And it's even like mildly water damaged. I mean, it's all dry and it's still readable. Every page is readable. Every page is there. But when I was getting rid of shit recently, yeah, I threw it away, and I've regretted that ever since.
Yeah. Luckily, you can, if you're willing to spend like $20, you can buy an official PDF online.
Yeah,
drive through.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad. Okay,
it doesn't look like someone peed on it, so yeah, I could.
Can you hear Pallades?
No.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah, can you hear Pallades? Whenever you're like, I regret throwing it away. He's like,
oh yeah, okay. Now,
to be fair, this one was an okay reason to throw it away. It's not like I didn't want it. I actually still, even when I was doing it, I'm like, I shouldn't do this, but I'm like, dude, it's so fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just throw it away. I'll get it. And it's not like a rare book, but there's no way I'm ever getting it for like the $1 or $2 I bought it for. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think we've talked enough about RPGs. Do you want to move on to something else?
Yeah, let's talk about some fantasy movies and TV shows, shit like that. So we talk about some like, mind you, I want to talk about games and shit like that too. But let's talk about some fantasy movies and shit like that because somebody I watched another YouTube video recently about like how the Lord of the Rings movies will never happen again because of like both the amount of budget they had and the reign of freedom that like Peter Jackson had on them. And it made me, and they briefly mentioned a bunch of like the old fantasy movies. And it made me think, like, yeah, remember like how bad some of them were? Remember Krull? Does anyone remember Krull? Not only was it Krull, the one where that dude had like I forgot what the glaive. It was like a boomerang thing where he would like, it was like a shuriken looking thing, and then he went like this, and they like blades came out of it.
Was that Krull?
Krull, Krull, like Kull, but with the
okay,
R.
yeah. I was getting those two confused for a second because I thought you were talking about Kull, but that's
Neeson's
the other like.
So it's
Howard
Patrick
series.
Stewart, no, just
this movie. Holy shit, this is bad.
And like he fights like this giant frog looking thing, and I forgot. And basically,
it looks like the monster from the Black Lagoon.
No, apparently that movie. I only know this because I used to have the DVD and I listened to other commentary logs. I just liked that movie when I was a kid. It's really bad. And even when I was like in my teenage years, I'm like, this is really bad. Basically, like you could tell they wanted to do a sci-fi, a fantasy movie, but they got cold feet, so they did like the Spelljammer thing, where like there's also aliens and lasers and robots, you know.
Hey,
but the main guys only have swords.
I have Hagrid in here.
I like some of that in my fantasy, honestly. Like my campaign.
Hagrid is in there. Bobby or Robbie, what the fuck his name is, I forgot his name is, but yeah, he's in that movie.
Run, or his name is Run.
Run. Anyway,
RHUN.
Oh, is that his name? But yeah, he's in that movie. I think that was one of his first fun facts. Anyway, were you saying, JD?
Oh yeah, I definitely like the blending, like the science fantasy blending. Like my campaign, yeah, games I was talking about got invaded by a party of mind flayers who are basically space aliens.
I'll say with the mind flayers aliens.
Well, I mean they are, I think, aliens even in standard D&D mythology.
Is that the lore? I thought they were just like old ones, like stealing Cthulhu bullshit.
Which would make them aliens.
Oh, you're right. They are aliens, even in the Lovecraft mythos.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert.
Yeah, for lore you can find in the Monster Manual.
That sounds like a nickname for me. Anyways, keep going.
So
I've
yeah,
never thought of
I guess fantasy TV is. I guess Amazon's been doing a lot of it recently. I mean, they just finished up the first season of The Legend of Vox Machina, which is based on a D&D game or Critical
what
Role.
is that? Okay, I don't like it already because it's Critical Role.
Yeah, it's like one arc of the season's basically one arc of the campaign turned into an animated series.
Wait, why
And
do
it's
you
got-
like Critical Role Manual?
I think they're honestly, I'll admit, it's kind of a hipster thing. It's not because I don't like them for any reason. It's just that they're so overplayed.
Yeah.
Also, I will say this. This is a gripe that I think a lot of people have given them. I don't know if there's any POC on their roster. There might be. I'm assuming apparently there's more than I thought there were.
Is that the one
But
with the
they released-
taco or the sombrero or something?
No, that's the Adventure Zone. But
Yeah.
But Critical Role did post a picture, like it was months ago. I should have. They posted a picture on their Twitter, and I think it even says something about like, "Oh, we're bringing you something new," and it was a picture of the cast. And I'm not joking. I should find the picture. If I'm able to find the exact one, I'll put it like on the thing right now. But they're all white, and it's like 10 of them. It's like 10 white guys and girls, and they just like
Yeah.
There's a lot of new things there.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid criticism of the show. I say that as a fan. They had Robbie Damon, who is Indigenous, as a guest star on their recent campaign for like 15 or 10 episodes, which is like longer than just about anybody else has been on that. And he was also a player in like their special Exandria Unlimited game between seasons 2 and 3, which was also DM'd by I can't remember her name at the moment. It's like I'll look it up, but it was
It is, and it's not even that I feel like they have to have representation, which I'm not gonna lie, I kind of do. But it's not even just that. It's mainly that how do you gather 10 of your friends and not a single one of them is like a person like that? Just feels unnatural.
Well, maybe
Yeah, well, I'd say
just
we kind of move on from this minefield before we step in something. And going up also back to Amazon.
I want the quartering to like reply to this. No, just kidding. Please don't.
No, please don't bring him here.
anyways.
Yeah. So
they did that. They did Wheel of Time. You were saying.
Yeah, Wheel of Time was also another one, which was a very interesting first season. Like there were
Did
definitely
you like it?
I
stopped
was
watching
okay
it.
with it. Like I can see kind of where it was probably going with some of its deviations. Like either A, because of like budget or time, or like Matt's actor dropping out like halfway through the season. They had to replace him for season.
Janet, who's another A person we've had on before, she was so excited when it came out. And then she watched it before I did. Well, it wasn't even done when she was watching it, but she watched it before I did. And she's like, don't bother watching it. It's not good. And I did. Then I stopped. And then like Kat, who's also been on other A stuff in the past, she used to tweet about it constantly. She's like, oh my God, I can't wait till it comes out. Can't wait till it comes out. And she's like, oh, the first episode's out tonight. Oh my God, I can't wait. And then the tweets never came back.
Wait, what is this?
Oh, Wheel of Time.
Wheel
It's
of Time.
based on a fantasy book series by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson for the last 3 books.
Very famously, Wheel of Time is a blueprint for what's eventually going to happen to Game of Thrones. In that the author who refused to finish the series in his lifetime has to pass it off to someone else.
Hey, he was Robert Jordan was trying at least. He was just suffering from I can't remember which disease, but something that like a terminal disease that killed him when he was trying to finish it up.
To be fair, yeah, I don't want to belittle Robert Jordan's work, but it's still sad seeing Jar Jar R. Martin just like refuse to publish anything. Basically, I'm like, bro. Like, I wish him the best. I don't want to say. I hope he lives to like a fucking 150. I don't fucking care.
Yeah,
but bro.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah,
you know
but
I wish lived to 150.
Ooh.
Kentaro Miura.
I think I fucking finished Berserk.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace. Okay,
and
continue.
that's another.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's
Actually,
another one.
Yeah,
we were afraid. I was so scared. A long time ago, I said, "Man, I'm afraid that he might die before Berserk fucking ends."
Hey,
and then that was like
wrong.
years ago, like in high school.
Wrong.
And now I'm just like,
didn't he tweet about that a year or so before he died?
Oh, I do not remember any of his tweets.
He really did. I think he tweeted like, "Oh, my one fear is that I won't finish." Or I don't think he tweets. I don't think he has social media. But I think like somebody a tweet went around that was a quote from the interview where like somebody was all like, "Oh, my one fear is that I'll die before I finish the series," and I'm like, and mind you, even when I saw it, he was still alive. Like it wasn't like I'm not sure how old that quote was. Let me make sure. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure.
Oh yeah, so Wheel of Time is probably one of my favorite fantasy series. Like I read it through when I was in grad school. Like I started book one sometime in my first year and finished A Memory of Light like the day
I love the
before
cover of the
final.
first one.
What?
I love the cover of the first one. It's like blue
Which
with
edition
the-
of it? The one that has is it Donald still in it, or the one that doesn't?
Oh shit! It's funny because I googled the first of all I googled Real Time and that was a mistake because everything's from the TV show. But the Eye of the World, the one where it has like the samurai looking guy on the cover. I
Yeah,
don't know
Lan Almandragoran.
There you go. I don't.
I know
by
I
the way,
butchered his pronunciation.
I have not read these books for many years, but I remember that cover really drew me in. Who the fuck drew
Yeah.
this?
Wait, so that. Oh.
Oh, sorry, you have a question about the series, Warren? I can probably answer.
No, you're fine. No, you're
Okay,
fine. You
yeah.
continue first. I
So, yeah.
myself. I'm sorry.
So I was very excited when the series was announced. It didn't like fully live up to I guess the hype I had built up for it, but I enjoyed it, and I'm definitely interested to see how they're going in season 2 as they started with their deviations, because I can see Manuel in like the VOD. Could you put up a spoiler alert like thing right here?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, because
I
so
was
in a
for
deviation
myself,
from
I
the
knew it was
books,
there.
like I guess Matt, who gets corrupted by a dagger in the first book, and basically spends like the first two or so books just basically catatonic and possessed by this evil spirit, gets cured of it much more quickly in like the first half of season 1, and then he goes off on his own, and then towards the end, like the Horn of Valir is just sitting in the throne room of, is it Faldara? One of the borderland countries, and Podden Fine just takes off with it. So I'm assuming like season 2 will have Matt falling in with them, like picking up the horn and then being there at the Battle of Falm to blow it and bring the heroes of the horn to that battle to stop the Shan invasion. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
I mean, that's the way I would pronounce it too. But the adaptation was wonky.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, real fast before I forget, Daryl Sweet. I don't know if you said that already, but Daryl Sweet was the illustrator for apparently all the Wheel of Time books except for the last one, and because he too passed away before they were finished. But I just want to throw it out there. I love his covers. Apparently, he did a lot of other covers from other series I didn't even know about, like the Thomas Covenant series.
Mm-hmm.
But Wheel of Time. Did you ever play like PC game?
No, I have not, sadly.
That game was pretty good. But like I almost feel like the series is somewhat unadaptable. Like I guess the same way I always felt that Game of Thrones would have been.
Mm-hmm.
I also hate that everything has to be compared to Game of Thrones now.
Yeah.
Because
That's because it's the most,
Talked about
everybody knows
thing
what
on the
it is.
internet. As much as people say nobody
It's
talks
kinda
about it, people
vanilla.
still talk about it.
People are still talking about it.
Yeah, it's
Not-
like people like to say like nobody's talking about it, nobody's watching it. But if you look up like shows that are talked about online, like on Reddit or something, that'll be in like the top 5 easily, if not number 1. Number 1, like most watched on HBO Max. Number 1 most pirated, I think, or not most pirated still, because it was probably like WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier or something like that this year. But it's still one of like the most viewed series. Like there might not be as much buzz about it because I think media like hype and stuff just kind of moves so quickly these days that even if your thing's not putting out new content, it's just not going to be like on the front page
I
of
don't even think
stuff.
it's that for the second Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones had one of the most infamous blunders when it came to the closures of any series, like ever.
That's an opinion thing, and I disagree with you on that.
No.
Yes, that's an opinion, and I disagree with you on.
No.
Yes.
We fucking got Cliff Notes. We had Cliff Notes the ending in that series. Like, don't get me wrong. I actually don't. I'm not upset by this. I'm personally not upset by the story beats. That's fine. But the fact that it was so like clearly truncated and squished, yes. And there were some story beats I didn't like. But honestly, that's the worst part. You could hate the story. I mean, you could love the story and still not enjoy it because of the way it was like moving at a stupid ass pace.
Yes.
It was ridiculous. And then like, even though I didn't care about some of the story beats, some of them felt convenient because they wanted to wrap up a plot line within that season, but they didn't have time to do it. So they're just like, oh yeah, you're gonna just die now. Like, we're gonna just kill you right now.
I mean, that's kind of what the series is also kind of built itself onto anyway.
No, the fact that is that if you're gonna build this, remember like Clegane Bowl sucked. Clegane Bowl
Well,
was so
I think
tight.
okay, that one I think is kind of more fitting for the thematics because you're supposed to contrast the Hound with Arya. Arya's was someone who tried to dedicate her life to getting revenge on the people who wronged her, who then learns the error of her ways by seeing Gregor, the Hound, go through this, and how it completely ruins and ultimately ends his life.
I don't know.
Like,
I didn't.
I understand. I definitely understand. And hold up. And when she killed the fucking Night King, I was like, hold up. Why did you kill the guy that Jon Snow was obviously his like his whole entire story up until that point was to fight him, and she kills him. I'm just like,
well, I mean, it's like
you can't close off someone's story by just throwing somebody else in there that didn't have any reason to be in that storyline. You could be in it as a side character, but for her to finish the Night King when it was all Jon Snow, whole entire thing, I went over the wall, found the fucking the White Walkers. We're gonna come back over, tell everyone about it, and then she's like, "Guess what, bruh?" Bam! We're like, "Oh, Jon."
I think Jon was basically just like, obviously on front in like battle, there are people who kind of decide in the moment how a battle flows, and then there's the generals who bring people together and kind of direct that. And I think that was more of Jon's role in that, and that his like overarching like arc, I guess, for the series is just trying to find a place where he could be judged for who he is and not who his parents are or who people think his parents are.
It was, I don't know, man. I actually,
but the thing is that if you're gonna build this whole storyline and then have somebody that has almost zero to do within that storyline to finish it, what's the point of even making it? I was like,
what do we say to the God of Death, Warren? And today, who's closest to the God of Death in the series?
But then, when you think about it, it's like everyone's like subverting expectations. Like that's not the point. You can't just subvert expectations for the fact of subverting expectations. It's just like it's like all of a sudden, Goku's fighting, and all of a sudden Luffy's like, "I'm here!" Like, who the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Like, who are you? Who? You know what I mean? That was my biggest thing. They kind of closed up a lot of like people's stories arcs with a lot of like things that just weren't like they like subverted expectation for the sake of subverting expectation.
Any other
that's like where I was just like
times you thought about that, because I could talk about this for like ages.
I could talk about this one for
like
ages
if you want
too.
Like I still think the ending of the bells is like one of the tensest things I've ever seen. Like I swear I could hear that coin flipping in my mind when Daenerys decides to burn down the city.
The bells was the okay part, I'm not gonna lie. But like pretty much everything leading up to it was some bullshit. I couldn't believe the whole ballista thing was like such a non-issue in the second time around. What the hell was the name of that?
Shit.
What the hell was the name of that army? The army that was like to defend this.
The Golden Company.
There you go. I'm like, I almost called them the Golden.
Got murked.
I almost called them the Golden Horde, which I guess would have fit. But okay, the Golden Company. Yeah, like I couldn't believe how stupidly easy they were wiped out.
Well, I mean, when you have what is essentially the fantasy equivalent of a tactical nuke, it's kind of easy to make mincemeat of your enemies.
Which is so ridiculous. I could not believe it. Honestly, a lot of that just felt like they didn't know what to do with these plot elements that they mostly put there for starters, and it's just like I don't know.
Well, Martin put there and hasn't resolved.
Yeah,
I mean,
we just have to see for real.
I doubt we'll ever know this like within his lifetime, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure if he ever passed away, this is something weird in his will. like his publisher will force whatever he's written to be finished. But I'm very curious now if if he's like read some of the, because he says he hasn't, by the way. That's the simple answer. But if he's like, if he's seen the feedback to like this ending and he's like, oh well, maybe I'll just change that now.
No, he has, and I believe, as he has put it, said art is not a democracy.
Yeah, he pretty much said, he pretty much said that he hasn't, for the record.
Yo, just because it's your art doesn't mean it don't look ugly.
Hey.
It's okay. I understand.
To be fair, I was a little iffy with the show for a while. I think they had several good seasons. Yeah, and it wasn't even. I think because the last season was just notoriously bad. But honestly, it had a real big drop off.
It did.
Yeah.
It really did.
Hi, Leslie.
Oh, hey, Leslie.
Hello, Leslie.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Any other fantasy TV we want to talk about?
The Rings of Power show. How that show's not even out, and it's upsetting me, and not for the reasons it's upsetting everyone else. Everyone else is
Manuel hates Lord of the Rings.
He doesn't. Manuel's racist against hobbits.
Yeah, he hates hobbits. He's like, man, your feet are too. Your feet are too small. I want bigger feet. I want to be able to put my whole entire mouth around it.
Yeah. I have a hobbit foot. I'm just kidding, but no, it's funny because I was about to make the joke that like, oh, I hate it, but not for the racist reasons most people do. Most people don't like it.
Is it the racist reason?
Some people, no, because some people legitimately, there was an argument like, there's a black elf in the trailer. There are no black elves. For the record, I was telling JD this. He could still be black. I'm not saying he isn't, but he's actually Puerto Rican. So I'm kind of like mildly offended, like for other, like, you know. Because as far as America's concerned, if they saw that name, it's like, oh, he's Mexican, because you know America's stupid. So yeah. Like us people need to stick together, black or not, I don't fucking care. But like, person of color aside. But anyways, that's not the reason I don't like it. But I guess it technically is still racial because fuck the hobbits. I do not want the hobbits in this show, and they're forcing them down my throat.
Oh no! Now you're like that foot fetish is definitely, you have no choice now.
And it's worse because, okay, if the hobbits were like just there, or even if they had probably most people would hate this, even if every episode just had a really boring B plot where like, meanwhile in the Shire, you know, I would be okay with that. But no, the main character, the audience insert is this one hobbit who decides that she wants to go on an adventure. And I didn't mention this. Apparently, it's even just a ripoff of like, it's kind of like mixing Bilbo with Frodo, because she wants to go on an adventure, and a friend of hers goes with him. I keep getting the genders mixed up. A friend of hers goes with her. But yes.
Does a wizard be like, yo, you gotta take care of this person?
Yeah, I was supposed to say, like is Gandalf gonna be all like, hey, here's a ring, go? Like,
well, I mean, obviously, given the point of the series or the name of the series, probably not, since we also do have Celebrimbor in there, and I don't believe at that time they'd forged the rings.
I'm gonna laugh, and this won't happen, but I'm gonna laugh if it does, and I have this like on video. I'm gonna laugh if this series changes like the plot enough that the hobbits get rings, and then I'm gonna be really pissed. And I say this kind of as a joke, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, they're gonna give him a ring, aren't they?
Okay, Manuel, I'm gonna have to make sure to save this part of the episode to play it back later, just in case that happens. So we can add that to your list of bets you've lost, that you've made on the show and lost. I'm still waiting for you to eat sand and your hat.
Oh, I'm still waiting for that movie to come out. But funny, I guess technically I didn't say it would get released. I said it wouldn't go into development. So
yeah.
Yes. Fun fact, I did a lot of digging in it, and not only is the show happening, but the show is already being pretty much like, I guess this is kind of fair. I'm glad that they did this on one hand, because now they have a plot and they're not just going at it. They're not doing the J.J. Abrams thing where they're making it up as they go along. But they apparently already have this scheduled out for a 5-season show with already a spinoff in mind. The show has not premiered yet. Yeah, the show has not premiered yet. Has not premiered yet. There's already 5 seasons and a spinoff in mind.
Well,
I mean,
some people are really overzealous.
Like, some people are really good planners.
You know, like Cowboy Bebop, which I actually really like.
We'll save that for our sci-fi episode. Don't worry. We'll have a
I know.
Sci-Fi
It's okay.
September or something.
Oh, do you want to talk shit about how like there's 8 billion Star Trek things that I know like now?
What?
Well, I can have that conversation, but we'll have that in the sci-fi one. How
Yeah.
there's more Star Trek right now than there's ever been in any other period of time. Like
Oh
combined.
yeah, and like in general, are you talking about not just like
Yeah,
right now, just like
because there's like, and I'm not exaggerating. There's like 8 Star Trek shows, but that's like
Yeah,
not
there's
the topic here. But
there's Below Deck, there's
fucking
Picard. Yeah, well, let's save it for Sci-Fi.
the cartoon. Anyways,
Yeah.
I can't believe that cartoon's real. Like the one I keep seeing memed. I thought that was just like they were making memes, but no, there's a new Star Trek cartoon, like drawn in the old fashion.
Hey,
Anyway.
Star Trek the Animated Series Part 2.
I can't believe that. Anyways, but yeah, also, I'm really confused what the stories are going to be about because apparently I've heard mixed react. Like the Wikipedia seems to be wrong because I went to like other sites and they all say the same thing, and I think even Amazon says the same thing. Whoever like the rights to Lord of the Rings apparently are a mishmash, a web of nonsense.
Yeah.
And the show does not have the rights to the Silmarillion, even though everyone keeps saying that they don't. So this is not based on the Silmarillion. They have the rights to The Hobbit, to Lord of the Rings, and the writings, like literally everything but the Silmarillion.
Yeah. Like, I think some of it's controlled by Christopher. Like, I think most of the stuff before, like, the first words of The Hobbit is basically controlled by Christopher, and he doesn't seem to be doing much with that, and I can probably understand why.
So apparently, sorry, I'll keep trying to fix my max. Apparently, this series is based on mostly just what the appendices say, like in Lord of the Rings, and what the characters say in passing, and which is kind of why I guess they have free reign to do what they want, which I guess is fair. But yeah, so it's not based on the Silmarillion. And in case you don't know what the Silmarillion is, it basically it gets more plotty as like it gets less plotty as the story goes on, but it basically tells the story right up until like Lord of the Rings happens. It gets very like paragraph for like a century towards the end, but yeah, it pretty much just does that. So I'm like, all this is already in the Silmarillion and you don't have access to that? Like they're gonna just make their own shit up? Because the way rights work, I don't think they could use what the Silmarillion said. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
assuming if
TLDR, it's gonna be its own thing.
Yeah, if it's not within the appendices as well, I'm assuming no.
It's gonna be its own thing. Yeah, it's gonna. Also, people are upset that there's like a dwarven queen, and I think she's the one that's like in like most of the posters. There's a dwarven queen that they keep showing, who has no beard.
what? So
Yeah,
There's always
Maybe
the debate
she-
of whether or not dwarven women have beards.
it's supposed.
I mean, Gimli did say something.
Okay, because in the movie it said it's almost
In
as
the
a
movie.
joke. In the movie it said as a joke, like Gimli says
Mhm.
it, like people are like, oh, he could have been joking, but in the books it's not Gimli who says it; it's Tolkien who says it in the appendices. So it's
Oh.
like it's a fact. So I will admit that upsets me a little. You know, they should have put a bearded dwarf. Like, come on.
Maybe she shaved.
I guess that could be a plot point, but like, wouldn't the dwarves care? Because isn't that a dwarven thing, almost like a Samson-y thing? I know that
Yeah,
was
that's like
yeah, don't shave your beard.
sacrilege.
Yeah, I will note that the Lord of the Rings is one of my big blind spots in the fantasy, so I'm just kind of having some jokes.
I don't
It's
know.
okay. It's okay. I get it.
I'm just really upset the more I dig into it, and not for the reasons everyone else is. I'm upset for the nerd reasons, and I keep reading everywhere that so and so is playing young Galadriel, and I'm like, young to elves, especially Galadriel, is a very subjective term because at the time of this story, she's like 3,000 years old. I'm like, she's not young.
She's still fucking. She's pretty still fucking old.
Yeah.
But the
benefits of
I
being
think
nearly
they cast
immortal.
her- I think they cast her like as a young person because of that, which is why they keep saying young Galadriel. And I'm like, I guess you could do that because like it's your interpretation of what they would look like, but don't use that as an excuse and call it young Galadriel because it's more like middle age Galadriel if you want to use like the Lord of the Rings as the endpoint. So yeah, it's middle age Galadriel.
Because how far is it? I mean, what's the time between the actual like the Lord of the Rings and this series?
Like 2,000 years, right?
Oh, dang, that's just
something like that.
okay.
Yeah.
Man, she's like
It's
gonna
like
be. Oh, she definitely gonna hit that midlife crisis over here
yeah, and I
when
think
the
the
link
first
comes
age
out.
was the first age was like the first age for her was like
And it comes
3,000 years,
back.
or like when she popped up, it's like 3,000-ish years, and I think this takes place like of 1,500 into that second age. I mean, so she's already like 4,000 something. My math is a little wonky, but she's old. She was one of the first elves that crossed with like the Noldor. So yeah, well, that's a really nerdy talk. But she's one of the first elves that came to the Middle Earth.
Yeah,
Basically.
why would you be all nerdy on this fantasy talk show right now?
Also,
Manuel's like, I'm getting too technical. We're like, isn't this the point?
Yes. Actually, can we can we start talking about like books that don't have adaptations at the moment?
oh yeah, do you like any fantasy novel? Oh wait, actually, before I want to throw it to Warren, but I want to mention the series fast because I mentioned it earlier. There's a book series that I used to love growing up, and now I feel it's I want to look into it. I'm not sure if it's problematic or not these days. Are you familiar with Thomas Covenant, JD?
No, I'm not.
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna mad content warning anyone who wants to Google it, but I won't say the main plot point, but like basically it's I won't say the really questionable plot point, but I'll say the main overall plot. There's this dude in the modern world who has leprosy. His wife left him. He lost half of his hand because of leprosy, and basically no cap. He gets isekai to like this fantasy world, and he gets sent to this fantasy world because he hits his head or something like somewhere, and he's like dying, and he gets like sent to this fantasy world where
Never ending
he
story.
suddenly he no longer has the
Leprosy.
debilitating things of leprosy. Well, he doesn't have leprosy at all, but like he's like, because I guess leprosy also is like debilitating, is in like you can't move as
Mm.
fast, and things like that.
Okay, I know the basics of what you're talking about now. I looked it up.
Yeah, but basically he has half a hand, so everyone thinks he's the reincarnation of this hero named Barrack Halfhand. But as soon as he gets there, he assaults a woman. Let's just say that he
Wait,
assaults a woman the second he gets there. The
as
second he
in,
like lands on the yes, and
oh,
like and basically the whole, and mind you, it's not played for like, oh, like, because the whole rest of the series he keeps trying to like come to terms with that. And even in the, spoiler alert, by the way, in the last book of the first trilogy, he meets up with her again because he keeps going back and forth between the real world and like this place, and time moves differently, and she's an old woman, and like she's like kind of like has gone mad because of like she never
what he,
recovered from that. Yeah, and they actually kind of like travel together. It's just crazy. The whole thing's really dark too because there's these set of characters called the Blood Guard, where there's 500 like elite warriors who protect like these magic users, like this council, and like whenever one of them dies, they get replaced. And as the story goes on, but they get replaced by like these elite mountain warriors, and because like they're in this mad, crazy war against this evil dark lord, they're getting massacred like crazy too. The Blood Guard are, and so by the end of the series, by the third book, um, the new recruits who come down are just like kids and like well teenagers. And this one teenager comes, he's all like scared of the battle, and like the leader of the Blood Guard has to go up and slap him. And he's all like, "You're a Blood Guard. Like remember, like we don't age, we don't do whatever. We just like serve to like we." It's a really weird series. It's fucking great though. It's great, but I feel it's problematic because of the
Yeah.
main plot point. Also, in the second book, they start bringing in other people from the real world. Like there's this guy he's a blind military commander, who's like the military genius who helps them win a war. And this is basically they imply the whole series that this might not be happening. This might just be Thomas Covenant's fever dream whenever he hits his head.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. I think I okay.
oh,
Let me phrase this. I think it was a good series when I read it. I don't know if I feel the same way now. Mind you, I read it when I was a teenager, and things like that were just you just thought about them differently in media.
it was
Yeah.
so edgy and dark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to say I was cool with it, like, but like you just thought
Yeah.
about things differently like that. So I don't know. I feel like that whole series has to have a giant asterisk next to it now. I should look into it and see if that's still a thing. Anyways, Warren, do you have any fantasy series? Anyways, I doubt they'll ever adapt that because of that. That's what I'm getting at, or they'll change that.
Like This sounds like a very like weird anime. This is at the very end. They're like, yeah, I was isekai. Now I'm just gonna do some weird shit in the fantasy world.
You know,
I was just like,
Manuel, I couldn't hear anything you just said.
Oh, I'm gonna spoil the main plot point for you so that nobody like goes to read it. Basically, in the whole series, like these people are so peaceful. Like they'll fight and they'll kill, but they won't pursue if the enemy flees, and they won't kill if they don't need to. And they keep wondering why they can't unlock their like the old magic they used to have. And by the end of the series, it turns out that they're like they shouldn't be too peaceful, and that they should be like willing to fight and die for everything and kill. And part of me feels that that's also a kind of problematic like thing the author might have. Like there might have been some secondary, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way the series ends. They end up unlocking their magic powers by realizing that they can't like basically be like not pacifist. That's too strong of a word, but they can't be like half-assed about their war. Anyway.
they're like, we let you guys run, and if you run long enough, we'll just let you run away, and then you can come back and we'll fight. And then you can run away again.
It's all very religious too. What they're doing, like when this giant ends up chasing these goblins and like kills a couple, he has to like pray to like be let back in the camp because they're like, you don't do that. You don't chase after them. You don't kill when their backs are turned. So yeah. But anyways,
this sounds very intense.
Oh, like Casca. Yeah, I forgot Casca has a very similar. And part of me wonders, and I've actually. Thank you for bringing it up, Leslie. That's actually the reason I wanted to bring it up tonight. I can't believe I forgot that. Part of me wonders if Miura read this series because I'm 99% sure this predates Berserk, and it's a very famous series. This is not like an unknown like fantasy series. It has like several other trilogies in the thing. And I can't help but wonder. I mean, I guess you could come up with that on your own too, but it does feel like the Casca thing. Like again, like. Especially the way she is throughout the series, because she doesn't talk anymore. She's lost her mind and everything. Anyways,
she can talk now.
Yeah, the first book came out in was it 77, and Berserk started in 89.
Berserk came in like 89. Yeah,
89.
Part of me, obviously, we'll never know unless he mentioned it. Apparently, from what I understood, because I was curious if there was something else. I thought was he influenced by that.
It's it may be more than coincidence.
So, anything you've liked to read? By the way, I feel like I talked about Thomas Covenant too much. Thomas. You read books?
I never was a really big like reader of storybooks in general. Like I like reading like fucking biographies. So
hey, those are some good books. Like I've definitely gotten into like reading some real world like memoirs and biographies too.
Like a lot of the books that I do have are just a whole bunch of stuff about like Cliff Burton, and Anthony Kiedis from Red Hot Chili Peppers, fucking Rob Halford. So no, not really. Everything that I guess.
You read Lord of the Rings, right?
Me? I did not read.
You've never read Lord of the Rings?
I was never a big reader. I mean, I loved manga, but that's because that's pictures.
I thought you. I don't know why, but I've always thought you. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, obviously, there's a lot of ways to fantasy.
Like you don't, man. No, I never like got into like into reading it. I was just never a reader. Like maybe that's why my mom's like, "Damn, bruh."
Yeah.
Hey, as a kid, she's like, "You gotta read." I'm like, "No, I don't want to, mom. I like pictures."
When I was a kid, I used to read. Well, when I was a kid, I shouldn't say that, but up until I was about like 20, and pretty much from when I was like 12 or 13, I used to read Lord of the Rings every year, like around Christmas time. That was what I would do. I'd just go back and read and every so often I'd add The Hobbit to that. I didn't read The Hobbit every year though, but yeah, I used to read it every fucking year, which is why I kind of know parts of it like the back of my hand and like stupid lines that like I guess now everyone knows them because of the movies. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah,
JD.
No, it's like a lot of
stuff is just boy. Now this is where I've wanted to talk about stuff for a while now. So
right, let's go.
Yeah, like
drop it.
I'm a huge fan of the author Brandon Sanderson, the guy who finished up The Wheel of Time.
Papyrus. Sorry, I had to laugh at that.
I've read just about every like fantasy book he's put out.
Wait, who again? Sorry,
Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, Brandon Sanderson, the guy who finished Wheel of Time. Okay.
Yeah,
I heard the Wheel of Time and I was confused.
got to meet him at the Oathbringer like opening or release night in San Diego. So I might send you the picture I have with him just to like brag in here.
Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I started reading his first book, Elantris, which is basically, hey, what if a prince turned into a magical zombie and had to figure out what was going on in the city where all the zombies were all together, like trying to find a cure for himself.
Mm.
And I like his magic systems are all really generally well codified. You can like see the rules of the system and how they kind of interact with each other. Yeah. So like in Elantris and on that entire planet, it's generally like shape based, and depending on like what part of the land you're from, and it depends on how it expresses itself. So for like Elantrians, they can like stab their hand in the air, draw sigils, and if they draw them correctly and in the correct order, they can make very specific kinds of effects. It's kind of like coding, which is why I like it. It's like, hey, okay, I want you to do this thing. I want you to add on this specifier, that kind of stuff. It's why it's one of my favorites, even if it is a bit of a sloppy book. I think even he notes that he just decided to start the ending because he thought he had written for long enough.
There was it's funny you bring this guy up. I only realized this now. That name sounded familiar, and obviously beyond Will. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I ever knew the guy's name who finished Will of Time, but this author, if you're, I don't know if you've ever met Rose. I don't know if Rose has ever been on a UPZ, but I know Warren has.
I do know
Rose. Always tweets about this author. I think she has an ongoing tweet, whatever you call it, like a thread. Where she keeps adding to like it as she reads more. It might be I forget which series it is, because I'm like none of these names. It probably is Mistborn, because like I think you remember the Hero of Ages. But
yeah, that was that's a Mistborn book.
Yeah,
that was the next thing I was going to talk about. That one is also one of his like better loved series that I like it. It's just not like as some of his other ones, and that one is basically starts as, hey, what if a group of thieves decided to overthrow the Dark Lord by stealing all his money so he can't pay his armies, kind of thing? And then it kind of like
politics.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then it kind of like branches into revolution and managing government, and then stopping the end of the world from there. Slight spoiler alert, but it's been like 10 years now. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it's really still an ongoing series, but yeah, there's like a ton of.
There's another series going on now, which I really love. It's the second era of Mistborn. It's the Wax and Wayne series, which is, hey, what if we put all this stuff, but in the Wild West, like early 19th century kind of stuff too. So yeah, there are guns. Like there aren't any full Mistborns anymore, so the title's technically an artifact now. Just because a Mistborn is someone who has
like wild arms, or is it just like actual just westerns?
No, it's westerns with magic, but it's that Mistborns have access to the power of every metal, while there are Mistings who have access to just one metal at a time.
Okay.
And they all have like different powers depending on which metal they are and different interactions.
That sounds like an RPG.
Yeah,
like an RPG
it does have its own RPG too.
Oh, of course. Like,
from Crafty Games, available now.
That sounds like an RPG setting Ward would come up with. It's like Wild Arms, but like that's like the pitch he's giving.
Yeah,
and then he's
like and the main character is basically like
less fantasy, more Western. Yeah,
the rich boy who ran away from home, became a sheriff, and then has to come back and navigate city stuff.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, the last book I think comes out either early next year or late this year.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at that. It comes out late November 2022.
Yeah, I'm so excited for the last metal. And then there's Warbreaker by him, which might be my favorite like single book of his. And that one is kind of, what if you threw two princesses from like the two types of princesses, like the rebellious princess and the like proper princess who's going to marry the king and that kind of stuff. Basically, if you swapped Arya and Sansa's places in their stories, how would that go in a world where magic is controlled by color, basically?
Oh.
And I just like
that's an interesting takes.
Yeah,
I know.
And like so the Arya, basically the Arya equivalent, Ciri, I believe is her name, ends up marrying this god king and just has no idea what to do, because like when she goes to the bedroom at night, he'll just sit there and then you eventually learn why, and it's one of his like biggest Sanderson avalanches, like where everything comes together at the end, and it's like, oh yeah, that is some cool stuff, and I love the vivid descriptions of things. It's one of the most colorful things I think you're ever going to get out of just words on a piece of paper. And then there's
means I have to read now.
Yeah, and then there's his.
I have to learn how to read.
Yeah, and then there's his big series, the Stormlight Archives.
Oh, is that also?
This is also Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, I'm still going. Yeah, which is basically, hey, what if invading monsters came back, and the knights who were supposed to defend us from them, we all hate them now, and so what are we going to do while we're tearing ourselves apart in war, and not like uniting as we should for this big existential threat we don't really see as coming until like book 3.
I've seen this Oathbringer book before, and I don't think I ever realized what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of my. It's probably the favorite of this long series. I'm still waiting for Nightblood, the sequel to Warbreaker, to come out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Sanderson.
Yeah. So it basically stars like a rotating cast. Your main cast is Kaladin Stormblessed, who is a former like soldier, doctor's son, made a slave, made to run bridges for a war, which basically means they're carrying bridges along the canyons and basically dying whenever they get shot by arrows because they're the first thing the enemy fires at.
Oh.
Then there's Dalinar Kholin, who is like an infamous general who is like now trying to reform his ways after the death of his brother. There's Shallan Davar, I believe. Shallan Davar, I believe is how you pronounce her name. Who I like to compare her to Nami from One Piece, just because she's a redhead who like comes in the plot just to like try and steal from one of the main characters, and then ends up joining them. Yeah, and then because the woman who she does that, I compare to Robin, because she's tall, dark-haired, bright-eyed, historian looking into past. People would probably prefer covered up. It's like, wow, Brandon, did you read that?
She's like an anti-Republican or whatever. She wants to look it up, but yeah.
She's an atheist in a very, very theist society.
It's like the Republicans are like, oh, no critical race theory. She's the one like, hey, what is this stuff that you don't want us to look at?
Yeah. I'd say Shallan might be my favorite character. If it's not, I don't know how you pronounce his name. It's like Sazeth Sun Villano, or Sazeth Sun Naturo, or Seth Sun Honor, I believe is what he's going by now. And
it's very famously like hard to pronounce a lot of fantasy names in books, because it's like you read it and it's all like, how do you say that? There's a meme on TikTok whenever someone mispronounces a word. It's all like, they learned it from a book. That just means they learned it from a book.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the way it is for a lot of books. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, because I guess he reminds me of myself a bit, just in like how he can be so like literal minded and conflicted between like the morals he's supposed to follow and what he's kind of commanded to do, because he's truthless, which essentially at the beginning of the series essentially makes him a slave to whoever holds his oath stone. The only things he can't do are give up his magical blade and like kill himself.
Is that are Oathstones kind of like the way in Earthsea, where if they know your name, like? No,
it is completely non-magical. It's just that he's just that bound to tradition because of it.
By the way, if you never read Earthsea, that's a random plot point for Earthsea. I don't think there was a TV series or a TV miniseries. Is there anything else at Earthsea? I don't remember.
Yeah, there's a Ghibli movie.
Oh, didn't that movie suck? I've never seen it. That's
it's one of my least favorite Ghibli movies. Like, I will give it one thing credit. I'll give it credit for one thing. If its goal is to make me want to read Earthsea, it succeeded, but only because I want to know what exactly was going on in that movie.
It's actually funny because the only reason I know about that movie is because I was confused about it. I was at the ALA swap meet one year, and it was there was a bin. This random person had a bin for things for $1, and one of the things in that bin for $1 was the Tales from Earthsea DVD, and I bought it. And I don't think I ever watched it, but I mean, I
Yeah,
watched it, but I put it on the background. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, before I get off Brandon Sanderson, well, that sounds weird, but you know what I mean. I like that a bunch of his books are connected. Like, if you pay close attention, you'll see characters who pop up again, and these are between the different series I've been talking about.
Yeah. Well,
Like, they're all technically connected to each other, even if they take place on different worlds.
it's like a Stephen King kind of like everything's Dark Tower related.
Yeah, but this one is supposed to have been like planned out beforehand. Like the actual overarching plot is planned out beforehand. He's obviously will throw in some new things as things change.
He's not busting the JJ.
No. And I'm like really excited to see all that stuff because one of my favorite team ups comes from that at the end of I think book 2, Words of Radiance of the Stormlight Archive.
I gotta read these, and Warren needs to learn how to read. Fun fact: there's another series I'll talk about real fast. There's a series called the Iron Tower trilogy. Huh? What you say?
Oh, I should also add in, and his Alcatraz series is also really good for younger children or like maybe teenagers. That it's just like instead of him planning, it's mostly him improving stuff. Like that's all puns and stuff. Like there's one chapter in one of the books where everyone is just speaking in I think quotes from Hamlet, except for one guy who quotes Macbeth and gets stabbed for quoting the wrong book.
It's so confusing because when I was Amazoning Brandon Sanderson earlier, I was like, "What's Alcatraz?" I just see that on his Wikipedia that I was looking up. But yeah,
fucking Manuel. He's like, what's Alcatraz?
Alcatraz versus the evil librarians.
It sounds like a Percy Jackson thing. But what's funny is this is a series real fast. It's called the Iron Tower. It's an okay series. I remember reading that when I was younger. It supposedly it was written as a sequel to Lord of the Rings, and the author couldn't. I forgot who the fuck. I forgot who wrote it. Something was that McKeenan. Anyways, and he couldn't get the rights, so he just published it as the Iron Tower, and it feels like a more actiony take of Lord of the Rings, like because there's even like a halfling race, but they're like warriors. But anyways, the real reason I mentioned this series, I'll never forget. There was this. I had this best friend when I was younger, and he never knew how to read. He did not know how to read. I think I told this story before, but never told what the book was. He did not know how to read. We were in high school. We were like, like 13, 14, but he never learned how to read, which is a thing that people can get away with, apparently. It always blew my mind that, like, school system would just keep passing them along. But anyways.
No child left behind.
Yeah, and like he had a then girlfriend at the time who I guess was really shitty. She used to like make fun of him, but he didn't know how to read. And yeah, TLDR. The good part of the story is though, I'll never forget. Like we went to this book sale, like one of those like library book sales where they like sell books for like a quarter or whatever. Which is how I got a lot of the shit I have. And he found the Iron Tower series. That he read it first, by the way, and he got the series. And I'm not gonna lie, when he was buying it, I knew he couldn't read. In my head, I was like, I didn't ask, but I was like, why the hell are you buying that? Like you can't read, Because typically he would go with me either just to go, or he would like go there and like buy a CD or something like that, or buy whatever media shit they have or comic books that he could just look at. But TLDR, long story short, and I've said this, I mentioned this in passing before, he taught himself how to read, like by just forcing himself over and over again to try to read that book and asking about words like to me or other friends, and taught himself how to read. And then he became so like enamored with like fantasy books after that. I don't think he was even a fantasy person. He just wanted to read that book. And he was all like, Manuel, do you understand there's all these worlds and it sounds like a cheesy thing to say, but he was like so amazed by it. There's all these worlds here that people just don't even know about. And yeah, TLDR, it was so refreshing to like have somebody like, be so enamored by like reading. And I'm like, what I just take for granted.
Yeah.
Learn how to read. And second of all, in case you don't want to feel too good about this guy and you want like take away the cheesiness a bit, he ended up stealing from me, and now I don't talk to him anymore.
Okay.
You know what? I hope he unlearns how to read now.
Okay, Manuel, we should be wrapping up soon, so I'm just going to go through some quick recommendations.
Go ahead.
That I can just like spy out of the corner of my eye on my bookshelf. So yeah, do you have anything you want to go first, or?
Bye, nerds. I'll name some quick. Oh shit. Some quick recommendations. I already mentioned the Earthsea series. Read those books. Don't watch that TV miniseries of Kristen Kruek. It was okay if you like cheesy fantasy, but no, don't read it. I mean, don't watch that. Read the series. Besides that, Iron Tower's good, nostalgic. There's a series, I can't remember what the name of it is, but look up Wet Boys, because like this series about assassins. that is pretty good. It's also very, very violent, but it's a good series. And honestly, I think I already mentioned my other recommendations. Yeah, read Lord of the Rings, read the Silmarillion. Maybe Thomas Covenant if you're able to look past that.
I know the series you're talking about. The Night Age trilogy by Brent Weeks.
There you go. It's very violent. And read that. Like it's I remember reading that on accident. Like it sounds stupid on accident, but I used to be part of one of those book clubs where they send you books, and you have to like send back a postcard that says I don't want this week's books, kind of thing, or this month's books. And I didn't send that back, and I got that book on accident. And yeah, I read it and liked it. And I don't know what happened to that book. I never threw that one away. I think someone stole it from me, or I just left it somewhere. Anyway,
is that same guy?
Yeah, that one's. I didn't like that one as much. Like I like the second book. Like I think the best out of that trilogy.
And also there's a series. I think the series is called the Keltoy with like a K, and it's basically an alternate telling of like when Caesar like a Caesar, because technically Julius Caesar didn't do this, when like Rome invaded like Celtic lands, but it's alternate history kinda. Everything has different names. It's a really good series. I can't remember the name of it is, but look up the Keltoy book and it'll come up.
Okay.
I do that every so often. Anyways.
Yeah. So my recommendations really quickly.
Dragonlance, last one. Okay.
Oh yeah, Dragonlance. Okay, yeah, mine really quickly. Codex Alera by Jim Butcher. It's basically what if Avatar: The Last Airbender, but in Rome with Pokemon.
What?
That also sounds like a pitch Warren would give.
Yeah, that was apparently a bet he made on a website, like on the message boards. Like someone pitched him the idea that was terrible and said, "Okay, you have to make a good book series out of this," and he did. I also like his Aeronauts Winless series, which is a bit more like steampunky fantasy. A sequel's supposed to be coming out, but he's taken his sweet time on that one, and I'm kind of willing to give it to him. I also like the works of Mercedes, I think it's Lackey, or I don't know if it's Lackey or Lackey, but she has her Elemental Master series, which is kind of fairy tales spun around into slightly more modern urban fantasies. Like the one that's not technically part of the series that I've read is The Fire Rose, which is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast in like turn of the century San Francisco.
What? It would be San Francisco.
Like, I know, and that also sounds like the Beauty and the Beast TV series, the one where like he lived in the sewer. I don't know if you guys remember that. That was like in the 90s, but anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then her Heralds of Valdemar series is also very nice fantasy.
I've heard of that one.
It's like a girl leaves the Handmaid's Tale to basically become a magic knight and like helps prevent war and that kind of stuff.
Oh, nice. There's there's a lot of good shit. Like, and I was what was the one I was just thinking of in my head? Now, there's the Grey Mousher series, which I really liked. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I had all these notes about this. We didn't really talk about the differentiation between like swords and sandal type fantasy, the pulpy fantasy. I'm a huge fan of Robert E. Howard, so any of his works on Kull or Conan. Don't watch the Kull movie though, because Kevin Sorbo's in that, and he's a fucking asshole.
Yeah,
he's a dumbass today. But yeah, there is a Kull movie that Tia Carrere's in, who I like. She's hot, but still don't watch it. Go watch Range World instead to go see her. But don't watch that movie. Anyways,
yeah. Another one I would recommend, or author I'd recommend, is Jane Yolen. She's actually one who inspired Sanderson to write, and he named one of the worlds in his like books after her. Specifically, the Book of Great Alta. I can't remember book or books, but it's basically like an alternate telling of King Arthur as a woman with like a double that only appears in the moonlight kind of thing.
I thought you were good. Okay, first of all, it sounds like an anime. But second of all, when you started saying a double, I'm like, what? A double D chest? I don't know.
No.
I always have boobs on the mind. Sorry.
Yes, you always do.
That's really what I was thinking, though. It's like, but then you said woman, and I'm like, wait, so like, when you said woman earlier, I'm like, you're trying to talk about her boobs? Anyways.
No.
Do you
Warren, but it's like whenever she's standing in moonlight, like a dark version of her appears, and it's just like her.
Is an anime. I feel like there is an anime plot that has that. I know.
But it's not like an evil thing. It's just like a sister to her, kind of thing. Not like it. So not I'm just trying to make sure, not an evil side kind of thing. What else do I have?
Anything by Moorcock, by the way. Read all Moorcock shit. Michael Moorcock.
Oh, Michael Moorcock.
Yeah.
I thought you said.
like,
I did not hear you pronounce it properly.
Moorcock.
I thought you either said Moorcock or
Moorcock.
My Cock.
My Cock, yes. Read My Cock, please. No. Michael Moorcock, very famously, everyone knows him for Elric. Elric of Melnibone, but he's also famous for by the way, speaking of Elric, I do know for a fact, because the Full Metal Alchemist guy has said that he got the name
Woman.
from that.
Arkell is a woman.
Yeah, but he also wrote a series called Hawk Moon, which is really good. And he wrote a bunch of other, a lot of other fantasy shit and other non-fantasy shit.
Trying to think another one. N.K. Jemisin, her Broken Earth trilogy is very good. It's one of those series I don't like as individual books, but when you put them all together as one story, it's a lot better. And then, why can't I remember? Children of Blood and Bone. I talked to Warren about this before, but I can't remember who wrote it.
Children of
Yeah,
Blood
I know. Wesley.
What did Wesley say?
He says, wrap
Tomi.
it up.
Yeah, Tomi
Mel.
Adeyemi. Like Children of Blood and Bone, her Legacy of Orisha series.
Oh, it's written by a Nigerian. Wait, have we even talked about this before? I feel like this sounds mildly familiar for some reason.
I've mentioned it to Warren on one of his streams before, but I don't think I've talked about it on here.
Oh,
No,
maybe I'm just thinking about Nigerian in general, because I remember reread Things Fall Apart in when I was in high school, and then I mentioned how in the past, and that comes up in a second. I didn't say that randomly. It's a Nigerian. It's probably like one of the first Nigerian pieces of literature, like I think in English. But anyways, and I was mentioning how I was really into like Nigeria in general culture because of that YouTuber I watch, Africa Every Day, Babatunde, and I think I might have come across this on my own because this is also by a Nigerian author. So yeah.
Interesting.
Nigerian American, I should say, but yeah, she's Nigerian. It's a she, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a Nigerian author. Yeah.
I thought you say it's a she.
Wait,
No, the author is female. The author is a woman.
Women.
And Manuel's like, it's a she. I was like, what? It's a she? What the fuck?
They're a she. Whatever. Anyways, they're a woman. Warren, do you have any recommendations? It doesn't have to be books.
I don't
Yeah, manga counts.
I don't read.
You read Berserk?
I mean, well, but then that's kind of well,
basic.
Does it have to be like? Yeah, like Berserk is pretty like now it's basic, bitch. Before it wasn't. You know, when I was like in early 2000s, it wasn't. It wasn't basic, and then everyone found out about this guy that has a big sword and swings it around, and they're like, "You're so cool, so edgy."
I'm mad at you.
So...
I know at the end real fast, but since we're talking about Berserk real fast, I'm mad at you because I specifically asked if there was any new Berserk, and this is a long time ago. This is not like this is. Yeah, I asked if there's any more anime, and it was you and Rachel. I want to say it was either DTL, it could have been a UPZ, and I was like, "Are there any other Berserk anime, or is everyone just talking about the old anime from like ages ago when I was a kid, when I was like in high school?" And you guys said no, but there's like 3 movies that have come out.
Yeah, 3 movies and 2 seasons.
The movies kind of suck.
No,
you're just better off reading the manga, if anything.
Yeah, basically.
The 90s anime is more fleshed out because they have more episodes.
Yeah.
But the newer one is kind of meh. You're just good with sticking with the manga.
Yeah, the 2016
not really anime, it's a super C. Like,
it's a 3D anime that they farmed out to a studio that they didn't give enough time or budget, and not enough experience to do it. Like I still kind of enjoyed it, but I've never read the manga before, so I just kind of like took in what I was watching, and it definitely gets into some of the stuff. It's like one of the only ways you'll see outside of the manga after the Golden Age arc.
And they keep on doing all this Golden Age stuff too. It's very like it's been super repetitive. So you're just better off just read the manga. You can't really go wrong because that's the actual source material. Yeah. So
I'll read the manga straight from Warren's mouth.
Let's see.
What else is there?
Okay.
I don't know.
We didn't even talk about games.
Tactics.
We didn't talk about games at all.
Well, Manuel, we'll save it for another episode.
Save for that episode. We should do another one, and we should try to get Rose on. I think I didn't even ask Rose, by the way. It did not even occur to me to ask Rose. We can come back and we can talk about more books and more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
She and I
hate
can
Rose.
just
Rose is a monster.
geek out over Sanderson for an hour and 30 minutes.
But I also know that even beyond Sanderson, they definitely. I actually had a drunk conversation with them the other night about Lord of the Rings. They were the ones I was like ranting originally about all the stuff I had learned about. And in their defense, they were actually yelling at me for being stupid. So it would have been a fun argument to have live. But anyways, let's wrap it up. Tomorrow, me and Warren and Snacks are playing Wild Arms 2.
Wait, are we?
I'm trying to get.
Shoot! Oops.
Wait,
I'm just
what?
kidding. I just nothing. I just wanted to see how your reaction was.
I'm trying to get Organ Trail 2 working in a better way because I know there's a way to full screen it. And I know that's a weird thing to have problem, but yeah, if you watched last week's stream, apologize. There was so many technical difficulties.
It was pretty boo boo.
I'm not gonna lie, the part when we accidentally went backwards was still one of my favorite parts of the game. That was so funny.
And then we went back so far. I think that we lasted a lot longer in going back and then like going back east and then going west than actually like going west.
But yeah, then everyone died. So in case you want the spoiler alert, we all died like 3 times trying to get to Oregon on Oregon Trail 2. But a lot of that was because we couldn't see the game because there was issues with sharing the screen because windows would pop up and bullshit. Anyways. Tomorrow playing Wild Arms 2. I want to redo Oregon Trail 2, but that'll come out later. Then Friday we're playing D&D, more of Warren's campaign. And that's pretty much it. Next Tuesday we'll be back and we'll be talking something I haven't decided what we're talking about. It's on the 1st. March 1st. It's the March to 1 million. Can we get 1 million subs? Yeah, I think that'll ever happen.
No.
Bang, 1 million subs
10
happen after that watch.
And if the quartering's watching, respond to us.
No, please do not. Just go in a hole and never have anyone hear from you again.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that would be much better if we just
and
never heard
please
from
stay away from
Quartering
anything related to Magic the Gathering, but I'm pretty sure you're already banned from that anyway.
Yeah, that's actually how I learned about him because like everyone's anyways, it's TLDR. I learned about it because somebody was hanging out with them. It's like in the Magic scene, and I was like, oh, this guy's banned. What did he do? And then I went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Anyway, what didn't he do?
Also, just admit that you think Brie Larson is hot, and that's why you make all those videos about her.
It's funny because me and Warren have a friend of ours named it doesn't matter what she's named, but we have this cosplayer friend of ours who she does look like Brie Larson physically. You know what I'm talking about, right, Warren? And she always she always like posts like, mind you, she's like joking around, but she always posts pictures about her and Brie are like separated at birth and how they're the same person and so on. She's always posting this shit. But anyways, it's great content for everyone. Okay, Warren, thank you for being on last minute. Thank you, JD, for being on. And it's 2-2 Tuesday. Everyone go get wasted. Maybe not. But yeah.
This sounds like a manual thing to do.
Oh, that's every day though.
Watch in the next 200 years, I was like 2. Oh.
Oh man, I was anyways. I was watching The Simpsons and there was an old one where they're back in Greece and Barney's drunk and he like throws a lightning bolt and it like sinks Atlantis and Zeus is like, you idiot, you sunk Atlantis, and Barney's all like what happened to the old Zeus who used to get drunk and like turn into a cow and pick up chicks?
Oh
and
yeah,
Zeus is like,
that was Europa.
Huh? Yeah,
I remember that myth where he turned into a bull and carries her over the ocean.
And then Zeus is all like, he grew up. When will you? TLDR, I'm the Barney in that scene. Anyways, that's all. That was my long-winded. I was watching that drunk and I was like, oh shit, that's me right there. Anyway.
All right.
Okay.
Night, everybody.
Peace out, guys. Good night.
McWeeb. Yeah.